Good morning, it's Morgan. Welcome to Murder in the Morning. Get ready with me while I talk about a true crime story. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. So I've been moving, so I'm gonna be in this area from now on, and I'll be starting to post more consistently now that I'm done moving, but I'll make this area look cuter as the videos go on. So today we are going to talk about Evelyn Dick, also known as the Torso Killer. So let's get started with that. I do have a new foundation, so I'm gonna try and color match, but if it's not perfect, then we'll know for next time. Evelyn Dick was born on October 13th, 1920. Her parents are Donald and Alexandra McLean. So when she was just 1 year old, her family moved away from, it was like near Niagara Falls, it was called Beamsville, and they moved to Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. So this story takes place in Canada, just so that you're aware. And her father worked for the Hamilton Street Railway as a streetcar conductor. And it was said that her dad drank too much alcohol and that her mother had a really bad temper. And so she did not have the best childhood. Her parents said that she was too fragile to play with the other kids in the neighborhood, so she didn't really get out much. And her parents, they didn't really like each other that much. They spent a lot of time apart doing things separately. So that's just kind of her background. She didn't get to play a whole bunch, and you know, her parents didn't really like each other. So when she got a little bit older, her father got a office position and he had access to the company revenues. So because of that, it was rumored that he was stealing from the company because they had a cushy life once he got that office position. They always had plenty of money in the bank. They were always splurging, and Evelyn always had nickels in her purse, which was a lot of money back then. So she wanted friends, obviously, because she didn't really have many growing up, but a lot of people just used her for her money. And so she had a lot of friends. She was extremely popular, but it was because they wanted the lifestyle that she had, and they knew that she had the money to spare to help them out with this. So she ended up throwing lavish parties and going out all the time as a teenager. And she was said to be very, very beautiful. I feel like they say that about everyone from that like older time period. Whenever you hear about a true crime case, it's like whether they're the victim or the killer, I just feel like every woman, like Lavina Fisher that I talked about before, everyone's like, oh, she was so beautiful. And same thing with Evelyn Dick. Like, they said that she was super beautiful, and it's hard to know if it's just because she had money that everyone wanted to be around her, or if it was just because she was beautiful. Also, because she liked to throw these parties and all of this stuff, she caught attention from older men, and she liked to spend her time with older men. Especially for the time, this was the tea, that she would spend all this time with these men, and much older men. But again, it was hard to know if she was the one manipulating them or if they were manipulating her, because she seemed to always get whatever she wanted, and she had the money. So then in 1942, Evelyn had a baby girl, and she, like I said, this was not okay for the time, that she was an unmarried mother and had just had a baby. So, and especially with all the rumors that she had been in company with older men, it was already like, ooh, what's going on? So when she actually had a baby, you know, people were kind of freaking out. But Evelyn said, no, this is fine, because actually I did get married. I married a military man, and he's just stationed overseas, and his last name is White. And that's the only information she gave about the father, her husband. but military records later proved that there was no such man, but she did what she had to do for the times. So she had the baby take the father's last name, Mr. White. So she named her baby Heather White, and the baby was born with some mental issues, and so it required a lot of help between the grandparents, Evelyn's parents, and Evelyn. And then September 5th, 1944, she had another child. The baby's name was Peter David White. So again, she took that other man's last name, but no one knows who the fathers were for either of the children. When she came home after having the baby, everyone was like, "Where's the baby? Where's the baby?" And she said that she had made the difficult decision to give him up for adoption since she was already a single mother. So if she's a single mother and she admits that, then why name the baby White? Why not name the baby your last name instead? I don't know. Maybe it was more common to have the kids have the same last name of the not the father. I don't know. So that's what she did, and she said that she gave him up for adoption. Then in June of 1945, Evelyn, Heather, her daughter, and her mother all moved in together because her parents had recently separated. So they moved into an apartment together in downtown Hamilton, and after a month of living together, Evelyn surprised her mom and said, "Hey, I'm going to be marrying this guy named John Dick. In 2 weeks, I'm going to marry him." He also worked for the Hamilton Street Railway, and he was a conductor. So Alexandra, her mother, had never heard of him before and was kind of shocked that she was running into this marriage so quickly. The other thing is that John kind of played that he had more money than he did. He would wine and dine her, treat her to fancy stuff, fancy dinners, parties. And so she didn't really know that he didn't have a whole lot of money. They got married in October of 1945. I don't think she made any money, but she just had money from her parents. But she was the breadwinner in the relationship. She had more money than John did. And so this is where she gets her last name, Evelyn Dick, from John Dick. According to Time magazine, she committed adultery 5 days after marrying him, and then shortly after they separated. So they had been married for about a month before they actually started living with each other, because Evelyn said, "Oh, I live with my mom and my daughter, and we already have an apartment, so like you and I don't need to live together yet. Slowly roll," kind of thing. So it makes sense that she was easily able to cheat on him because they didn't even live together. And she said that there wasn't enough room for all of them in that apartment, so she was kind of just waiting until she could move as well. So the other thing that made the mom kind of surprised that Evelyn was about to get married was she remembered a man named Bill Bohozuk. She had been interested in him and seeing him all while this whole relationship thing was going on with John. So that's why the mom was kind of surprised that she was going to go marry someone else when she was seeing this other guy. So then Evelyn bought a home on Carrick Avenue, and it said that she paid for the whole thing and that John's name wasn't even on the mortgage, and that he put none of the initial deposit down, the down payment. That it was just Evelyn who did all of the finances for this home. So that's the home that they lived in together before they separated. So then on March 16th, 1946, a group of 5 children found what they thought to be the body of a pig. I feel like all my stories just involve pigs, honestly. Oh my goodness. Okay. So they thought it was a headless pig that they found laying halfway down Hamilton's escarpment, or what they call the mountain in that area. What it actually turned out to be was the torso of an adult male. So the head, arms, and legs were missing and were nowhere to be found. So there was a cut down his abdomen, telling the investigators that someone had tried to cut the torso in half as well. After a positive ID, the body turned out to be John Dick. John Dick's cousin, Alexander, said he had reported to the police that he had been missing since March 6th. So when his cousin heard that they found a body and he hadn't seen his cousin in 10 days, he was pretty sure that it was going to be him. And it was. When he first went missing, he thought, oh, maybe patched things up with Evelyn and is going back to live with them. He was like a little worried that John hadn't said anything, but figured that they just repaired the relationship and he went to move in with them again. But obviously that is not. Well, we don't know exactly how it went down, but he didn't patch things up for sure. That we know did not happen. So Evelyn was taken to the police station to be informed about her husband's death and for questioning, and she said, "Don't look at me, I don't know anything about it." And that's kind of a weird thing to say when your husband you just found out that your husband's dead. You know, you think you'd be a little emotional, a little sad, I don't know, worried, asking what happened. Instead, she's just like, "Don't look at me," which I think, you know, obviously makes her more sus. Right after saying that, the police didn't even have to say anything, and she starts saying, "Oh, actually, some Italian hitman arrived at the door looking for John, and he said he was going to fix him for messing with his wife." And then without telling her who he was, he just left. So that was her original story, was, "I don't know anything about it. Oh, actually, an Italian hitman said he was going to take care of it." Which, if he didn't tell you who he was, then how would you know he was an Italian hitman? I don't know. And also, don't you think you tell the police if a hitman was looking for your husband, whether or not he messed with someone's wife? So then the police find out that she had borrowed a car from a man named Bill. And when Bill received the car back, he found blood covering the front seat and the seat covers missing and bloody clothing in the back. And she just said, "Oh, my daughter, my little young daughter, yeah, she got a cut." And so she just left a note. Evelyn, that's the other thing. Evelyn just left a note saying, "Oh yeah, my daughter had a cut and that's what the blood's from." Not even like, "Oh, let me pay for the repairs," say it in person. She just said, "Oh yeah, my daughter got a cut and that's what all of the blood is. And that's why I had to take the seat covers off." Like, yeah, my little tiny daughter, she got a cut and it just would not stop bleeding. So they tested this blood, and as we know, DNA was not great back then, but they're able to match the blood type to John's blood type, which, you know, is still not clear cut, but at least they knew that it was the same blood type. I mean, you take what you can get back then. And I wonder if they could have proved that it wasn't the daughter's blood type, because she wasn't actually his daughter, so that could have proved that Evelyn was lying as well. So then she tells them another story that a mysterious man came up to her and said that John got his wife pregnant, and he asked if he could borrow the car, and he had a large sack with him, and he said that it contained part of John. So then when the police asked her about this and said, "Well, how did you feel about, you know, this man killing your husband and you knowing that?" She said, "It's a pretty mean trick to break up a home." She basically helped this man hide the body, bury the body, whatever they did with the body, but she knew John was dead and that the sack contained parts of John. And she just says, "Oh, well, it's a pretty mean trick to break up a home, but he's dead and you don't care. You're not mad at this guy. You're not freaking out or anything. You're not telling the cops." So psychiatrics, she was interviewed, and they said she had like the intelligence of like a 13-year-old kind of thing, and that she just lacked intelligence. That's what the psychiatric said. And her friends and people close to her were very surprised, because they had always known her to be very cunning, manipulative, and smart. And so it's, again, did she just manipulate the psychiatrics and psychiatrist? I don't know what the word is. Did she just manipulate them into thinking that she was of lower intelligence to make it seem like she couldn't have done this or orchestrated this? Because if she's known to be manipulative, then that is right there, manipulating. And then she changed her story once again and involved the Italian hitman again, and said that they were hired by Bill Bohozuk. I do not know how to pronounce his name. I'm so sorry. But Bill, she said that he hired them, which is funny because they were romantically involved. So why is she trying to throw him under the bus? They go to the family home and they find a beige suitcase in the attic. And like always, just be prepared, trigger warning. Inside the suitcase, it was filled with concrete and there were the remains of a baby boy. And this baby boy was Peter David White. So Alexandra, the mother of Evelyn, said that she had seen her husband around the trunk the day before and he told her to get out of the room. So then they brought Bill in for questioning, and Evelyn told another story. She said that Bill had murdered the child and John as well. There was incriminating evidence such as bullet holes in a pipe, a revolver, and cartridges, saws, and blood-stained shoes. And the shoes were John's shoes. And these were all found in Donald, Evelyn's dad's basement. Evelyn, Bill, and Donald were all charged with the murder of John Dick. So in Evelyn's first trial, she was found guilty of John Dick's murder and she was sentenced to death by hanging. Even though the jury didn't think that she killed John with her own hands. They don't think that she's the one who actually killed him, but they thought that she was the one who orchestrated the whole thing and planned it and made it happen. But then the case was put on appeal and the verdict was overturned because Evelyn's statements to the police were improperly admitted into evidence and the trial judge had not properly instructed the jury. So basically, since she had given so many different versions of what happened, there was no way to trust which one was actually true. So they couldn't use that as evidence to say that she did kill him because her story just kept changing. So they couldn't know which one was the actual truth, if that makes sense. And her story changed so much more than just that. It was constant. Every time she told a story, it was a little different. So the only witness of Bill's involvement was Evelyn, and since she wouldn't testify, he was let go. Her father was found guilty as an accessory after the fact, and he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Evelyn, she was found guilty of manslaughter in the death of her son and sentenced to life in Kingston's penitentiary. She was paroled in 1958 after only 11 years in prison. 11 years. She only spent 11 years in prison for killing her son, covering it up, and then killing her husband. So then what happened to her afterward, we don't know. It's rumors that she got remarried and had kids. And then in 1985, she was pardoned and her record permanently sealed. So that means she didn't even have to show up for her parole meetings or anything. Completely off the hook. And no one was ever convicted, stayed found guilty for the murder of John Dick. This is crazy to me because she definitely orchestrated or had involvement in her husband's murder, and she was never, she was found guilty and then it went on appeal. So no one ever went to prison for his murder, for murdering him. And she only got manslaughter for her son. This case is wild to me, and a lot of people say that this case is an example of how to get away with murder. And I totally agree. I totally think she got away with murder for 2 people and only 11 years after what she did. That is crazy to me. So then there is a well-known schoolyard song at the time, and it goes, "You cut off his leg." How is this okay. Just get ready. "You cut off his legs, you cut off his arms, you cut off his head. How could you, Mrs. Dick? How could you, Mrs. Dick?" How is that a schoolyard song? Oh my goodness. At least the schoolyard knows who killed John Dick. They know it was Mrs. Dick. How could you, Mrs. Dick? How could you, Mrs. Dick? And the fact that she got pardoned. Okay, it'd be one thing if she went on appeal and then got let go after 11 years, on parole, whatever. But then to be pardoned, that's to say that you did nothing wrong. And we know you did something wrong. So it's just, I don't understand how she could have been pardoned, and it makes me so angry. Because she can just go on living her life no big deal. She would have been 60 something at the time when she got pardoned. That's still plenty of life left and no one even knows what you did. So it's kind of worrisome. I don't like that at all. But another little fun fact is that the Forgotten Rebels used these lyrics, the schoolyard rhyme, schoolyard song, in their Untitled album in 1989. So that's just another fun fact. If you're ever on the schoolyard, now you know a song that you can do. Thanks for listening. Let me know what I should talk about next week. And let me know down in the comments if you think she got away with murder. Bye!